In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act.
Yeah, that's thank you, man. You the man. Okay, let's we've got a half an hour left in the program, and let's go ahead and get through the rest of this fantastic video that Scott's posted on the Facebook page. This is from The Guardian with Glenn Greenwald and the NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden.
That's applied.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded, and the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
It's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong and so then they start monitoring you. It's no, they're monitoring everyone. It's everything anywhere is being logged, and because that's, like you said, that's the easiest way to do it for them. They just log everything, keep everything, and then, you know, they have automatic, basically generating searches throughout the whole thing as it's being recorded that kind of systematically flow it all into certain categories, and then, you know, once you say certain buzzwords, you know, ping, 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 and then it's, you know,
yeah, you can do algorithm searches. That's how Metacrawler works, and that's how Google and all these search engines work. It's the same thing. It's a gigantic database, which is essentially what the internet is, really, except for it's not all in one place. And then you just do a search in there, and you say, "Oh, look up Jacob Dean," or "I want to look up people talking about the NSA," and da 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 da. And I want to draw parallels to this, and then so you find. You know, you go back in history and find everything you've ever done in the last, apparently this has been going on for 15 years. So anything that you've ever done, I think it dates back to 1998 is what they said, has been recorded. Every phone call, every text message, everything, every credit card transaction, you name it. So anything you've ever bought, that's why you should pay cash.
But we are currently sitting in a room in Hong Kong, which is where we are because you traveled here. Talk a little bit about why it is that you came here, and specifically there are going to be people who will speculate that what you really intend to do is to defect to the country that many see as the #1 rival of the United States, which is China, and that what you're really doing is essentially seeking to aid an enemy of the United States with which you intend to seek asylum. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's a couple assertions in those arguments that are sort of embedded in the questioning of the choice of Hong Kong. The first is that China is an enemy of the United States. It's not. I mean, there are conflicts between the United States government and the Chinese PRC government. But the peoples inherently, you know, we don't care. We trade with each other freely. You know, we're not at war. We're not in armed conflict, and we're not trying to be. We're the largest trading partners out there for each other. Additionally, Hong Kong has a strong tradition of free speech. People think, oh, China, great firewall. Mainland China does have significant restrictions on free speech, but the people of Hong Kong have a long tradition of protesting in the streets, of making their views known. The internet is not filtered here, no more so than any other Western government. And I believe that the Hong Kong government is actually independent in relation to a lot of other leading Western governments.
Here's the last clip, and this kind of sums up. I think this is the most important part of this whole conversation with the NSA whistleblower, who's come forward to really provide us with one of the biggest whistleblowing acts of courage that we've seen in a while. Not to belittle the other recent things that have been in the news, but this is some big stuff here, and this just, you know, it's an affirmation, of course, to the conversation that we've already been having. But if you haven't been having the conversation, that we've been having on this program, for example. There's many other programs having, or other outlets having the same similar conversations. But if you haven't been there yet, then this is a revelation that you probably didn't see coming, or maybe you did see coming. It didn't matter. It's just it's here, and
yeah. Well, it's what this is it's news you and I have already known about, posted on Facebook, done shows about over the last 5 years or whatever. But it's now breaking into the mainstream. And so it's become verifiable, no longer just a tinfoil conspiracy or a few people here and there who say this. This is mainstream real news.
Yeah, so go ahead and take off the tinfoil hats, friends. And
right, it's just validation, really. It's undeniable validation now. Right. So now what are we going to do about it?
Yep, and this is Ed on really what the personal sacrifices that he has made, and we're literally about to watch unfold through the news cycle for the next week, couple of weeks, who knows how long, couple years, probably more like it. But this is him in his own words at the beginning of this whole thing, saying, "Look, here's who I am, here's who I really am, here's what I have going for me, what's going on, the reality." And you got to really think about why the hell I would even do this.
If your motive had been to harm the United States and help its enemies, or if your motive had been personal material gain, were there things that you could have done with these documents to advance those goals that you didn't end up doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anybody in the positions of access with the technical capabilities that I had could, suck out secrets, pass them on the open market to Russia. They always have an open door, as we do. I had access to, the full rosters of everyone working at the NSA, the entire intelligence community, and undercover assets all around the world, the locations of every station we have, what their missions are, and so forth. If I had just wanted to harm the U.S., that you could shut down the surveillance system in an afternoon. But that's not my intention. And I think for anyone making that argument, they need to think, if they were in my position, and you live a privileged life, you're living in Hawaii in paradise and making a ton of money, what would it take to make you leave everything behind? The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessarily to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse until eventually there will be a time where policies will change, because the only thing that restricts the activities of the surveillance state are policy. Even our agreements with other sovereign governments, we consider that to be a stipulation of policy rather than a stipulation of law. And because of that, a new leader will be elected. They'll flip the switch, say that because of the crisis, because of the dangers that we face in the world, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority, we need more power, and there will be nothing the people can do at that point to oppose it, and it'll be turnkey tyranny.
That's the word of the day, kids. Turnkey tyranny.
And Scott's, Skeptical Scott's vocabulary word of the day is turnkey tyranny.
Turnkey tyranny. I mean, it's all sort of at this point. I keep saying and things I write and read, I'm just like, well, this sounds like we're on the way to tyranny, and this is going to become, finally tyranny, because it's not entirely tyrannical. It's not overtly tyrannical, but it's certainly subversive. And it's like he said, if nothing changes, well, then it's going to be completely tyrannical. It's like what Chris Hedges said about years ago with the notion of inverted totalitarianism. Sheldon Woolen called inverted totalitarianism, which is what we have today in the corporate state, flipping, getting to the point where it just flips and it becomes overt, and it's just flat out totalitarianism. At that point, it becomes there's going to be just incredible violence, with these crazy right-wingers and their guns fighting the government or some shit, while the rest of us protest peacefully and are still getting shot. But that's the thing. You don't want to get to that point.
Right.
We want to save the government we have by resisting the takeover of our government of corporate forces. We have to resist corporations. We're not resisting our government per se. We're resisting their support of corporate America. But we have to resist corporate America first, and make our government support us and not support corporate America.
And the other part that I really liked from that last clip, and I think one of the most important take-home messages that we can take home from this new stuff that's come to light, this new shit that's come to light, is again, what would it take for someone to have to give all of that up to do that, to take that personal risk, that political, that professional suicide? And to compel to move forward, and then ultimately his biggest fear being that nothing changes, the biggest fear being that nothing happens from this, the biggest fear that we sit here, we talk about this, and then tomorrow we do nothing, and the next day we do nothing, and we do nothing about it. We don't show up, we don't protest, we don't resist non-violently with the only weapons that we have, which are non-violence and transparency, and we don't resist, and nothing changes. That's the biggest fear. Something has to happen. And I was listening to Tom Hartman today on his program, and I heard Tom Hartman say on the free speech break that basically he hates to see it come to this, but he really thinks that we're headed for a crash, something like a Great Depression crash, and that it's going to take something like that to really, make something happen, to make the change happen. And that's what Tom said today on the Free Speech TV break. And he rarely says, I think we're gonna have to hit rock bottom before it gets any better. He's, it's not usually the kind of stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't want to admit that. But he finally has, I guess.
Well, and that's exactly more or less what he said today, and I heard it and kind of stuck with me. And that's something that Scott, you and I have talked about, and kind of the reality that we're observing here is
things are not bad enough. Not enough people are suffering. God, I think how many times we said that. I mean, not enough people are unemployed. Not enough people are without health care. Not enough people are being polluted. On and on it goes.
And let me be the first person to say I never wish any of that upon anyone ever. It's just I don't wish ill on anyone. Period. And I never will. It's even of course we get emotional sometimes and behind, if you were to listen to me behind the wheel of a car stuck in traffic for 5 minutes, you'd hear a completely different. You'd hear a completely different. I'd be singing a completely different tune, and of course we all would in the moment. But it's just the truth is I don't wish ill on anyone, but maybe. That's the case. It's going to have to hit rock bottom.
With the lack of empathy, I think there's still a huge disconnect with people.
Right.
And so it comes a point where people are suffering more and more and more to the point where they're seeking refuge and they're seeking other people in their situation, and they realize that, oh my God, there's such a large amount of people out there, and that's when movements start. You start to build communities and large mass movements, and I think we're certainly heading in that direction.
Yeah.
Things aren't getting better, and they are getting worse, and nothing's being done about it. In fact, things are being exacerbated to make it worse. The Arctic's melting. Let's fucking drill out there, baby. Let's move a shipping lane through the Arctic Ocean. It's like it's just kind of insanity, right?
Right.
So people are going to have to realize at some point, if they don't already, that it's up to them to change the course we're on.
And we're the change that we're waiting for, and it all comes back to the message of the show and everything that we say and we do. Is it all comes back to we do have to get active. That's Tom Hartman's tagline at the end of every show. Tag, you're it. Go out, get active, participate. And I would add, be the change, make the difference, and really it does come back to that. Which is very important, and that's part of why we do this show. It's part of why I'm growing a garden. It's part of why I want to not go apply for a job which I need at Clear Channel. It's really, can we start to change the narrative? You know, can we start to just take the public transportation and not own a car and create the myth that owning a car is bad? It's not good. It's not convenient because you're stuck in traffic anyways, and you're cursing your head off anyway. And so let's change the myth, right? Let's change the stories. And it starts with our own stories, our own actions, and making a difference.